Here are the top stories of the news. Federal government asks Atiku Obi to accept outcome of the 2023 presidential election. Police arrest 3 suspected IPOB members in Anambra State. On the foreign scene, heavy fighting again rocks Sudan's capital as tens of thousands flee the bloody turmoil. Good afternoon and a happy Sunday to you. Welcome to Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. My name is Evelyn Ohiola. We begin with politics, where the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has told the opposition parties to stop their griping over the 2023 presidential election and accept defeat over the election they lost woefully. Mr. Mohammed noted that both Peter Obi of the Labour Party and Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party lost the election due to overconfidence and complacency. In a statement issued today by Special Assistant Media Segun Adeyemi, the minister said the president's analysis on the reasons for the opposition's loss in the 2023 elections was incontrovertible. He stated that President Buhari deserves nothing but accolades for the delivering of what he described as the best election in Nigeria's history, adding that the tempestuous reaction to the president's comments by the opposition has shown them for what they truly are. Meanwhile, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has filed a lawsuit against the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, over its failure to investigate allegations of electoral offences against some state governors and their deputies during the 2023 elections. According to reports, the recently concluded general elections in some states witnessed widespread reports of voter suppression, voter intimidation, and the destruction of or theft of election materials by political party agents and thugs across the 6 geopolitical zones. In the suit, SERAP asked the court for an order of mandamus compelling INEC to appoint an independent counsel to investigate allegations of electoral offences against state governors and their deputies. SERAP is also seeking for the prompt, thorough, and effective investigation of reports of electoral violence and other electoral offences committed during the elections, as well as the identity of suspected perpetrators and their sponsors. Moving on, the President-elect Bola Tinubu has arrived in Lagos days after he returned to the country from a 4-week stay in Europe. The former Lagos State Governor arrived at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Nigeria's commercial capital yesterday evening. He was received by some of his associates, amongst others. His return to Lagos is coming just 1 month before his swearing in alongside Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima. Now to security matters. Police authorities have arrested 3 suspected members of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra IPOB in Anambra State. According to the State Commissioner of Police, Echeng, they were arrested on Wednesday by operatives attached to the Forward Operating Base Agwata, who were on a stop-and-search duty at Afo Nnobi Road Junction. They said the suspects refused to stop when the police officers on duty flagged them down. Instead, they started shooting sporadically to escape police screening. The police boss identified the suspect as Chinonso Ofo, a native of Enugu State, in Ekwolobia, Aisand Igweke, a native of Unsuka, resident in Onitsha, and Samuel Sunday Akpan from Akwa Ibom, but resident in Usochi, Abia State. In Imo State, a Catholic Church priest, Reverend Father Michael Asumuga, who was kidnapped recently, has regained his freedom from his abductors. Father Asumuga of the St. Paul's Catholic Church Parish, Osu, in Isiala Mbano, local government area of Imo State, was kidnapped earlier in the month. One of his parishioners, Chinedu Osuji, confirmed the cleric was released this morning. He thanked everybody for the roles they played in the priest regaining his freedom from his abductors. Amid incessant attacks, residents of Opaha and Edikwu communities in the upper local government area of Benue State have appealed to the federal government to intervene and establish a military base in their communities. According to them, this would enable them to return home and assure that they would not be attacked again. Last Tuesday's attack by suspected herdsmen left as many as 11 persons dead, including 2 military officers. Leaders of the affected areas, including a state lawmaker, Abu Umaru, met with the internally displaced persons, IDPs, assuring them everything was being done to end the menace. Community leaders said at least 22 persons in 3 communities under Apa LGA had been killed under 2 weeks. Here in Osun, 16 persons have been burnt to death and others wounded in an auto crash in the Odeomu area of the state. The fatal accident involving a white commercial Mazda bus and a white Lexus Jeep happened opposite Mud Oil. The spokesperson of the State Command of the Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSC, Agnes Ogungbemi, confirming the incident, said some of the victims were burnt beyond recognition. She explained that those injured had been taken to Ishiolua Medical Center in the town for prompt medical attention. The victims of yesterday's incident include 11 adults and 5 children. Only 1 person was identified and taken away by the family, while 4 others sustained injuries. In the meantime, residents of Esauke in Oboku local government area of the state are set to begin enjoying the delivery of potable water to their homes and strategic places in the town. This follows the intervention of Governor Ademola Adeleke to resuscitate the Mariband water station located in the ancient Esauke town. Emmanuel Ujuadegele has the rest of the story.
Speaking with newsmen at the water station in Esauke, General Manager of the Small Towns Water Supply and Sanitation Agency, Toyin Ashaolu, disclosed that the intervention of the state government was in line with the drive to deliver on campaign promises to small town dwellers.
The scheme was even established during the era of Governor Olagunsoye Oyinlola in 2006. And by the time the administration was on, the scheme was okay. But shortly after Governor Oyinlola left, the scheme has been moribund. And to God be the glory, our home governor, Senator Ademola Nuruddin Jackson Adeleke, has come to rescue our situation.
According to Mrs. Ashaolu, not only is the Esauke water station receiving a facelift, there is also an overhaul in the equipment used. She called on residents not to fail in their financial obligations to the government as they enjoy the benefits.
Presently, the water is 200 cubic meter per day. And with this level of the water, it can serve the whole Esauke and environs.
On his part, the head Operation and Maintenance Small Towns Water Supply and Sanitation Agency, Adewale Odeyemi, noted that despite some of the challenges encountered, work in Esauke has reached 71% and will be delivered in no time.
Actually, the work is so challenging because imagine an equipment that has been down for over 10 years that has not been working. To get it back, it's not an easy thing, but we thank God that we are able to achieve it so far.
The Owamiran of Esauke, Oba Adeyemi Adediran, who spoke to newsmen on the sidelines of another event, also commended the governor's move to restore water services in his kingdom.
Like in Esauke, we have a lot of students also. Then the population is just increasing every day geometrically. We thank him because there's a lot of, we are used to stream water, but having a potable water will be the best thing. And we've been appreciating the government. Though people have been complaining that there's no public tap here, but now we have public taps around, and we thank the government in power for doing what he's doing.
Residents of the Esauke town, like a woman identified simply as Mrs. Fakonlu, describes the return of potable water as one of the highlights of the year while extending appreciation to the governor.
Àwọn ìjọba adúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ wọn pé wọ́n ṣe pé wọ́n rántí wa nílùú Esauke, then kán má fi wá sílẹ̀, àwa náà á máa ṣe dáadáa sí wọn.
Under the Small Towns Water Supply and Sanitation Agency, the Osun State government is aiming to improve on the delivery of potable water in 37 places across the state while trying to drive up revenue generation. Emmanuel Ujuadegele, Western Spring Television News.
You're still watching News at 12 on Western Spring Television. We will be right back after this break.
Dramatist, playwright, and icon of Yoruba thematic arts, Duro Ladipo was born December 18, 1931 in Osogbo, southwest Nigeria. His clergyman father christened him Timothy. His other names, Duro Dola, Duro Shomo, Duro Rike, reflected his persona and the circumstances that surrounded his birth. The legendary stage actor had in several public fora identified himself as one of the greatest abikus born to die in this world. Family records reveal how he was born and died 13 times. The intertwining names he bore thus lent credence to his spiritism. Duro Ladipo was one of the best known and world-acclaimed Yoruba dramatists to emerge from post-colonial Africa. His notable works, Obakoso, Obawaja, and Moremi, took him beyond Africa to several parts of the world. By the time Duro Ladipo died on 11 March 1978, Nigeria's first cultural ambassador had acquired a towering image as an artist whose works adorned the frontage of Trenchard Hall, University of Ibadan. Western Spring Television identifies Duro Ladipo as a major character in history. The British Empire was the largest and the most powerful in the world. At its zenith, the empire embraced a quarter of the Earth's land surface and imposed her imperial majesty's rule on more than 458 million peoples across nations and continents. The empire took off with overseas possessions and trading posts established by England, spread over 3 million kilometers between 16th and early 18th century. Like previous empires, the British Empire began to crumble on its weight of overstretched territories and growing unrest in our various colonies. Today, the British Empire no longer exists. What is in place is the Commonwealth of Nations, a loose association of sovereign states which recognize the King of England as the titular head. Western Spring Television identifies the British Empire as a watershed empire in history. Samuel Ladoke Akintola was a frontal figure in the historical moves that birthed an independent Nigeria from colonial Britain. As a freedom activist, he deployed his wits, energy, intellect, and oratory skills to prepare the grounds for constitutional talks that eventually culminated in the country's independence in 1960. The 13th Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò of Yoruba land cut his teeth as a politician when he became a foundation member of Action Group, the dominant political party in the Western region, and was elected the party's parliamentary leader of opposition at the Federal House of Representatives. The crisis in the Action Group, which pitched Samuel Ladoke Akintola against his leader, was not only a sore point in his colorful political life, but a reversal of gains which characterized the exemplary leadership of Awolowo Akintola premiership. 23 years after his death, Oyo State University of Technology Ogbomosho was renamed Samuel Ladoke Akintola University of Technology to keep his memory alive. Western Spring Television identifies Samuel Ladoke Akintola as a major character in history.
Welcome back. Moving on, the federal government has disclosed the completion of road work between Kara Bridge and the Long Bridge area on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, Arden, that it would be open to traffic today. The Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, made this known in a statement yesterday by Special Advisor on Communications, Hakeem Bello. He, however, appealed to motorists to exercise patience over the heavy traffic being experienced on the stretch from Tollgate to Kara Bridge in Lagos as the reconstruction work on the road enters its last phase. Mr. Fashola noted that the intensity of work and the high volume of traffic, which are to be accommodated at the same time, have been complicated by the impatience on the part of some motorists who drive against the planned traffic flow. In other news, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors has threatened to embark on strike if the federal government fails to meet its demands within 2 weeks. NARD issued the ultimatum at the end of its National Executive Council meeting yesterday at Abeokuta, Ogun State capital. The National Executive Council of the association said the federal government has refused to negotiate with the association or take tangible steps on the upward review of the consolidated medical salary structure. NARD accused the federal government of refusing to pay the salary arrears of 2014, 2015 and 2016 to resident doctors. The association also demanded immediate massive recruitment of clinical staff in hospitals and complete abolishment of bureaucratic limitations to the immediate replacement of doctors who leave the system. The resident doctors also condemned the bill seeking to mandate medical and dental practitioners to practice for 5 years before relocating abroad. Elsewhere, the Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) has accused the federal government of denying it the use of the Eagle Square to mark the Workers' Day celebration. The Workers' Day is an annual celebration marked on May 1st. In a statement by its General Secretary, Emmanuel Uwaja, the NLC said the celebration will be held on the streets of Abuja to deepen its reconnection with the people. The union said the sudden decision to withdraw the permit to use the Eagle Square may be laden with mischief and a sign of what is to come in the near future. It added that all affiliates are to assemble at its national headquarters by 8 a.m. on Monday, from where they will proceed on a rally around Abuja. The NLC assured workers of its continued commitment to its traditions and values. Now for news outside Nigeria, heavy fighting has again rocked Sudan's capital as tens of thousands have fled the bloody turmoil between the Sudanese army and the rapid support forces. Army forces clashed with the paramilitaries in downtown Khartoum as deadly hostilities entered its third week, despite the latest ceasefire, which was formally set to expire at the end of today. Clashes were reported around the army headquarters in central Khartoum, while the army also carried out airstrikes in the capital's twin city of Omdurman across the Nile River. Sudan's former Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok has warned that the conflict in the turbulent African nation could deteriorate into one of the world's worst civil wars if not stopped early. Mr. Hamdok warned that the conflict in his country could become worse than those in Syria and Libya.
The nation, we formed the first government in September 2019. We came against a very challenging background in every aspect of life. On the political front, we had to face huge expectations, and rightly so, by our people. Of course, they sacrificed a lot. They expected, like the following day, everything should be improved. Of course, there is a need to appreciate that there is almost as practical destruction in every sense, mismanagement in every aspect. But also within the political challenges, we had to manage not only expectations, but also ability to stay the course, a unified front, continue the consensus that toppled the regime. It's very challenging, because everybody was behind that flag. But when the regime was overthrown, everybody went and lined up behind their party or region or other flags. So the seeds of the fragmentation started there. This was a very challenging task. Then also the other elements of the democratic dispensation. We had a task of organizing the Constitutional Conference. You know more so well of the 6 decades long. We did not have a permanent constitution till now.
Now, outside Africa, the United States has accused China of harassment and intimidation of Philippine vessels and called on Beijing to end provocative action in the South China Sea. This comes after a recent near collision between a Chinese vessel and a Philippine Coast Guard boat. U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller, in a statement, called on Beijing to desist from its provocative and unsafe conduct. The State Department also warned that an attack on Philippine security forces or public vessels would trigger a U.S. response. The warning comes just 2 days before President Joe Biden is to host his counterpart, Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in Washington, D.C. In the Middle East, thousands of Israelis have gathered in central Tel Aviv for the latest weekly protest against the government's judicial reform plans, just days before legislators return for a new parliament session. Opponents of the judicial reform bill have kept up demonstrations in the commercial hub and across the country since January, despite Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu putting the controversial reform program on ice a month ago. The Israeli society has been deeply split over the proposed legislation, which seeks to weaken the Supreme Court and hand politicians greater influence over the selection of judges. Mr. Netanyahu's right-wing administration has argued the proposals are necessary to rebalance power between the judiciary and elected officials, while opponents said the changes represent a threat to democracy. Now to some sports stories. Sir Jim Ratcliffe's Ineos Group may have taken a significant step towards taking control of Manchester United after it emerged its bid put a higher value on the club than Sheikh Jassim's. According to sources with knowledge of the bidding process, Ineos' offer received before 2200 local time on Friday was the highest relative to the stake they intend to take. Qatar banker Sheikh Jassim wants to buy 100% of the club and has offered about £5 billion, but British businessman Ratcliffe only wants a controlling stake. This was initially viewed as the Glazer family's 69% stake, but over the past week it has been suggested Sir Ratcliffe may reduce that figure to allow co-chairman Joel and Avram Glazer retain some link, although his ownership would not be less than 51%. Sir Ratcliffe and Sheikh Jassim are the two main parties looking to take control of the club. Now to tennis, Russian teenager Mira Andreeva's incredible run at the Madrid Open continued with a straight-set victory over Poland's Magda Linette to reach the last 16. Andreeva, given a wild card for the clay court event, celebrated her 16th birthday today with a confident win over the world number 19. The world number 194 will face second seed Arina Sabalenka in the next round. Andreeva's triumph over 2023 Australian Open semi-finalist Linette comes after she beat Brazil's world number 14 Beatriz Haddad-Maia in round 2 just 24 hours after overcoming 2021 US Open finalist Lila Fernandez.
She's an amazing player because she plays so consistent. She doesn't miss a lot. So I just try to play my game. I just try to cut the rhythm a lot. Sometimes to use the drop shots, but she's very fast. So I did like a few in the beginning, and then I didn't do it at all because I lost almost all of them. So I just try to play my game. Just try to play aggressive, and I made it through. Of course, I didn't expect to be here and playing Sabalenka in the round of 16, but I'm not really surprised with my level, because I know the way I can play on the court, and so yes, I cannot say that I was surprised with my level, but of course I didn't expect to be here.
Before we end the news, here is a recap of our top stories. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has told the opposition parties to stop their griping over the 2023 presidential election and accept defeat over the election they lost woefully. Police authorities have arrested 3 suspected members of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra IPOB in Anambra State. On the foreign scene, heavy fighting has again rocked Sudan's capital as tens of thousands have fled the bloody turmoil between the Sudanese army and the Rapid Support Forces. Remember, you can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. That ends Spring News at 12. I am Evelyn Ohiola. Happy Sunday.